Okay everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel today. We're back on GT Sport and we're back with something slightly different with the FIA. So we're not on our normal account, as we're going to see in a minute. We're on our secondary account. This account is what I use, the YouTube, the T25 account. I use this for my daily racing when I start from the back of the grid and we try and do a last to first or something like that. We have some fun on it. We take it a little less serious and it's not really a problem when we get the DR or SR situations where we get penalties and stuff, because obviously with the penalty situation in this game, it's very risky to run your FIA account in daily races. But the reason we're on this account was because of a situation in the manufacturers where a car spun in front of me, nowhere near me basically. It was about probably over a second ahead. I think it was about 1.5, 1 second ahead, something like that. He went out wide, went off the track, spun on the grass, cut back across the track, spinning basically, out of control. As I braked, his car clipped across the front end of my car. Nothing I could really do about it. It was live on stream, and I picked up a 5-second penalty. Basically, the whole race was a bit of a disaster. We were picking up SR drop downs from people hitting us in the rear of the car all the way through the race, which then resulted in myself getting dropped down to about 84 SR, which then puts you in a weird lobby on GT Sport. If you're between 80 and 90, you're not going to be in the top split, which is what I'm normally racing. So we would have been put in a lobby where we would have only got about 1,000 points. So it was basically pointless me racing that, because the points would have been it would have been no benefit for myself. So I decided to jump onto my secondary account with a driver. This is still building up on drive rating. Obviously we're trying to gradually build it up, but starting from last, it's a little bit of a disadvantage. We're on about 55k. So I knew that we'd be around split 2 or 3. I'm not 100% sure exactly whether this was split 2 or 3, purely because the points were just under 2.3k, but it was the last race of the day for Nations, and the lobbies were dropping off a bit as the day. I mean, top split and the second slot was only 2.8k for the win, so it's possible this was split 2, it's possible it was split 3, I'm not 100% sure, but the point is, it's 2.3k points basically for a much easier lobby than what you would get in the top split. And we got pole position, as you saw, starting from pole position with a lap time that was good enough for about P7, I think, in top split, something like that. It wasn't particularly a great lap, I had more potential on that, but we were 3 tenths clear on P2 as well, so it was quite a comfortable gap really, compared to top split where, you know, there's not really a 3 tenths gap between any drivers in top split. It's very rare you see any sort of gap like that. It's normally a, you know, half a tenth between every driver. So much easier situation to be in now. Obviously starting from pole position, and first aim of this race was just to pull away and try and build myself enough of a gap so that I can fuel save safely without giving the advantage to P2 of being in the slipstream and saving more fuel. Because obviously the Mustang, I like this car at this track. It's my favourite car at the track. It drives really nice, it's consistent to drive. The GTR was probably better on the fuel, the Corvette even better than that probably. Mustang wasn't the worst car on fuel, but it wasn't the best. So what I had to do was try and get some of the fuel saving done on stint 1, and then I can go in the pits and drive a little bit more aggressively. If I've gone in the pits with say 2 seconds more, 2 seconds ahead, and then I can just put that little bit more fuel in and then drive aggressively to the end for the last 4 laps and then build the gap up from that situation there. But you can see already we've got the gap over pretty much a second already. You can see the driver behind, he's just outside that slipstream range, so this is pretty much perfect for my situation now. I've built the gap up and now I can just drive my own race, and this is why it's so much easier in the lower splits. You know, if this was top split, there's no, I pretty much guarantee it would be basically impossible to lose the slipstream that easy on lap 1 within a lap. Even Lightning, for example, would struggle to get rid of, you know, P2 on the grid from his slipstream that easily. And it shows you why people are doing this, dropping their drive rating. And when I see them dropping their drive rating, they're deliberately going to daily races and probably finishing, you know, trying to keep their SR high so they're not having incidents. They're probably just driving fairly casually, putting an average qualifying and finishing about P10, and just slowly dropping their drive rating down to 65k, 63k, something like that, which is then going to put them into split 2. And they're going to have a much easier race by doing that, and it is a known fact. People are doing it. It's obvious because, I mean, I've seen drivers in split 2 that used to always be in split 1. They were always, in them top ranked lobbies, and I know they're fast enough to be in the top ranked lobbies, but they've just deliberately dropped their rating so that they can enter these races with much easier competition. As you see there now, building that gap up to around 2 seconds now, and that's the distance that I wanted in this race, so that I could start doing the fuel saving. You can see me short shifting through the corners there at the very early shift into fourth gear, saving that fuel. It will help the fuel consumption all the way through the first stint by doing that little gradual shift from third to fourth early, and then from fifth to sixth, etc. And also at the end of the straights, what I always tend to do in Monza and track 2 for longer straights is, just as you're getting quite high on speed, is put that fuel mixture into level 3 to 6, you know, depending on the mixture, around 3 to 6. It might lose you 1 or 2 miles per hour towards the end of the straight, but it saves quite a lot of fuel when the multiplier is on times 6, which I think this race was on. And that's one of the tactics that a lot of the top drivers do in these races, to try and basically exaggerate their fuel saving all the way to the end of the stint. You can see the gap though in the bottom right hand corner on the replay camera. You can see it's fairly comfortable already. We've got a nice solid gap to P2, and you can see the field spread as well on the track map is already a lot more than what you'd see on top split within a few laps. I think top split normally probably the top 10 would be within 4 or 5 seconds easily. They'd be within 4 tenths of a second bumper to bumper, and it's a lot more congested and a lot tougher racing. And again, this is why people are doing it. They're dropping their safety rating, sorry, their driver rating, to lower themselves into an easier race to pick up consistent points. And with the fact that top split is so hard to get the consistent points, they're actually putting themselves in a position to qualify for World Tour events, which for me is it shouldn't exist in my personal opinion. I think Polyphony need to do something about this. They need to correct it somehow, and there is ways they could do that. I've talked about it on stream. I think one very easy way to do this is unlock the driver rating system. So 75k, if you're not aware what I'm talking about, if you go to Kudos Prime, you can search your stats. 75k is the maximum you can get to on GT Sport. Now, why there is a limit, I do not know. That they should have that unlocked, you know, so you can go above 100k, and so the top drivers will be way up there. And this will then instantly increase the points available in top split, because the points in your split is based off the driver rating average. So if people have got higher driver rating, the points are going to be higher in that lobby, and then there's more points available. So if you pick up a really solid P10 in top split, which I can tell you now that there's been some races in the past where it's felt really rewarding to pick up a P9 in top split, because the competition is so fierce, it's so close. And if you say, if because of this situation you pick up say 2.5k for a P9, you'd be happy. But when you're picking up 1.6k, 1.7k for P9, and then you have a situation like this where this is 2.3k to the win, and I'm not really battling, I'm comfortably driving this in the lead, no real issue. I don't feel under pressure because I've got a solid gap behind me. I'm controlling the race, you can see. I'm short shifting as much as I need. The tyre wear's under control. I've got the bias set to, I think it was 3 to the rear. I could have gone more, probably 4 or 5 to the rear, but I didn't feel like I needed to. I just felt like I could drive it fairly comfortably with this bias and hold the driver off behind. You can see that GTR does get a little bit closer on these straights, on the acceleration zones mainly, but then top end at the end of the straight it loses a bit, so that's where I can do my fuel saving to keep him around 2 seconds behind. But what you're going to see is a big difference from the first stint to the second stint, because in the second stint I go a little bit more aggressive. I start pushing because I put the fuel in, because all I had to do on this first stint was get my fuel under control and then give myself enough fuel to drive a lot more aggressive on that second stint. And then you're going to see the real difference between the pace between myself and P2. Now, I'm not saying P2 is slow by any means. You know, these drivers in these lobbies are very good drivers. They're fast, they're consistent. You can see they're not too far behind. However, in a top split lobby, if you were that much slower, you probably would have been starting around P12, whereas they've started P2. You know, a 48.3, or 48.2, which I think was P2's time, in top split probably would have been outside the top 10. I'm pretty sure of that, because I think I did a 47.8 and was in P7, and then there was like not even, I think there was like a 10 separating 3 or 4 drivers in top split. And that's the difference in GT Sport, you know, between top split and second split. Is the qualifying is so important. If you're 4 tenths off the pace in qualifying, you're starting way down that grid, and that is one of the reasons why some people are doing it as well, because if qualifying is easier in these lower splits, they're able to just get themselves into a nice position in qualifying, say top 3, and then if they've got good race pace, they can just pick up a nice consistent score, and yeah, they can away good points. But like I say, if they unlock this driver rating system, top split points will be that much more. You'll be getting 4k for top split, maybe even higher points, 4.2, 4 point whatever. And I think that would pretty much instantly solve the issue with a point system, because In second split, you're going to get none of these drivers with the excessive high ratings like TRL Lightning, Favaris. They're never going to be in split 2. So you're never going to get the point situation going up that high. It would be quite a big drop between split 1 and split 2. So you're going to find everyone wanting to be back into split 1, which would be a better situation for everyone. I think if we have the best drivers in split 1 fighting for the top points, it's a better situation for everyone. The racing, the people viewing the racing, for polyphony in the World Tour events, I think it's better for them if the best drivers are in these World Tour finals, not just the drivers that have tactically dropped their driver rating. Another way they could also do this would be to go back to the old system of FIA. If we remember last season, the official season, we had a situation where it was only one race that counted. You couldn't do multiple attempts, and for me this was more like racing. It felt like you had pressure in qualifying, you had pressure in the race, and one mistake would wipe out your chance. And I think it made the racing a little bit cleaner, if I'm honest, because people were a little bit reluctant to go for that one, that overtake if they saw, if it was a 50-50, they weren't sure they were going to make it. At the moment, I think some people are inclined to think, I'll just go for it, because if I make that mistake and it doesn't pay off, I end up last. Well, we've got another attempt, and we got 2 more attempts, or we've got 1 more attempt. I can just go again, and I'll just drive that one a little bit safer, if the situation happens again. However, back then, when there was only 1 attempt, you couldn't be like that. You had to think, well, this is maybe I should just wait behind and just wait for that perfect moment to go for the move, and then go for it. As you see, we go in the pits there with slightly less fuel than P2, but not mass amount, considering we were in the Mustang as well, which uses up more fuel. We're in a very good situation. So I filled my car basically enough, a little bit extra on the fuel, just so I could push this a little bit more on this stint. And I knew I had over I think I had 2.4, 2.5 second gap going into the pits, so I knew I could do that. And you see, we come out the pits, and we've still got about 1.9 second lead to P2, but now I've got a better fuel situation because I've put that little bit extra in, so I can push a little bit more, which the Mustang really likes to do. So push it. When you start pushing the Mustang, that's when its ability at this track really comes into its own. As you see now, I'm going to pretty much go aggressive now. You're going to see it. On the outlap, I decided not to push too much. I just kept the short shifting a little bit because I wanted to push for lap 2, which would be the fastest lap of the race. I wanted to pick up fastest lap of the race, pole, and the win. That was the aim for this race in this slightly lower split lobby, obviously because we're on our other account. But like I'm saying, I much preferred the old situation with the get rid of them multiple attempts, because I understand that disconnects happen, and it is really frustrating if you get disconnected from a lobby. However, let's be brutally honest, right? In Nations at the moment, we've got 40 rounds. Only 10 of these rounds count towards your overall score. Now, I don't think there's going to be a situation where someone's going to get disconnected more than 20 times in a season. And if you are getting disconnected 20 times in a season, my guess is there's something also wrong with your connection. Now, I'm not just saying that because I'm being biased, because I've live streamed many FIA races, and so I've had my connection running on a live stream and obviously through the PS4, and I very rarely get disconnected. I think the disconnections are not as bad as they used to be. So if you get disconnected say 2 or 3 times in a season of 40 races, it is a bit frustrating. But is it really the end of the world? No. You've still got plenty of other opportunities to pick up 10 solid rounds. So I think that with this new system, the way they're doing it, with the disconnects being slightly less common as they used to be, I think we could go back to that system of a one-shot routine. And the reason why I say that is because if you have three separate races a day for nations and manufacturer, now if you are saying one shot, what you're also going to do to each race is you're going to separate the best drivers through 3 separate races. So 6 p.m. race, the 8 p.m. race, and the 10 p.m. race, it's going to be split. So you'll find majority. So you'll probably have like 5 top races going in split. The first one, maybe 4 in the next one, then 3 or 4 in the next one after that, and it just separates the racing. So then you have a situation where split 2 will not be as high points. Split 1 will be the advantage of being in it, because you've probably got a decent chance of picking up a top 6 in split 1, whereas with the current system, you're struggling to get in that top 10 sometimes. Sometimes you can still pick up top 5s, top 6s. I've had some really good races recently, and frustrating at this race, I knew that I had really good race pace, because I knew that my pace in the race was really solid, and that's what I'm going to show you in this race about my overall finishing time. if we have a little look as we go over the line, I'm going to point it out when we finish this race, but you can see we're all in the purple sectors, and you can see I'm driving a lot more aggressively now. I'm pushing the revs, I'm pushing this car, and what you can see is I'm dropping P2 quite drastically. You can see it on the minimap, you can start seeing him fading away, you can see him in the bottom right hand corner as well. On the replay camera, there's the gap is just increasing every lap, and you can see he's under pressure from someone else as well, but I'm starting to gain 3-4 tenths every single lap on that driver, so, and sometimes more as well when I start to go up. So we're going to go over the line, let's see what this lap's going to be. Will it be an improvement? A 1:48.2, and it wasn't a perfect lap. We probably could have crept into the 47s in race conditions, which would have been a nice lap. And to compare it to top split, I think that would have been pretty competitive, if I'm honest. And this is why I was a little bit gutted that I wasn't able to race the final slot of the day, because if we'd have just got qualifying and sorted and a bit more luck in the race, we got some really unfortunate penalties in nations and in manufacturing. The manufacturer one was the worst of the day, and let's hope that something is done about the penalty situation, although we've been talking about the penalty situation on GT Sport for probably about a year. It doesn't really tend to improve. But again, we're going through another purple sector there. You can see, because I've judged the fuel, I've got the fuel situation pretty much spot on to push now, reasonably solid all the way to the end. I'm just going to be able to increase that lead to P2 constantly every lap. You can see it now. Look at that gap in the bottom right corner, how much I've got over the other drivers, and this is comfortable, and this shows you, you know, and there's no way in this world that I would be able to jump into top split on any race, even one of my stronger races. I mean, this is a stronger race for me in general in terms of race pace. It was just frustrating how the races went in top split, but that's because they're so much more competitive. So, you know, look how much easier this is. We're cruising around. We've got, I think, about 4-second lead now to P2, and it's increasing every lap, and it's just comfortable. There's no real pressure. This would not happen in top split. You would never have a race where you could get 2.3k points this easy. It just doesn't happen. So this is why they're dropping their drive rates, and obviously it's giving them much easier points, much easier way to gain a solid 10 results. And this is what people might be doing. They might be getting their solid 10 results, getting 2.3 to 2.4k, getting 10 of them, and then they might bump themselves back up into top split to look for the big points, which is an advantage for them really. So let's hope something's done about this. Like I say, I would love them to go back to a single attempt race and spread out the drivers through multiple lobbies. Let that one account, that one attempt count. Especially, I think what this might also encourage is less of the fuel burning if we have one attempt at a race, because what people are doing, I've done it. If you know you've got more races to enter, you think, well, I can just burn that fuel down, and if I mess up qualifying, I can just go and do another race after it. But if you've got the situation where only one race counts, one qualifying counts, you're more inclined to do a base lap, so you're probably more inclined to burn a little bit of fuel with the current situation, but still put in a base lap, so you're not burning fuel through the whole qualifying, and then go for a second lap, because it's going to be important that you make sure you're starting in a reasonable qualifying place, because if you bin your lap and you're only giving yourself one attempt, that's it. You're not going to have another attempt till the next race at a different track. So it's something that I think qualifying could look into doing, going back to that routine of one attempt, one qualifying, none of these multiple attempts, and also unlocking the drive rating system. I think it will fix this case where a lot of people are dropping their drive ratings to get more solid points. Because look at this, we're on the final lap now, and look at the mini map in the top right hand corner. We've got about, I think it's about 7-second lead. I think by the end of this race, as we go over the line, we're going to have about 7 to 8 second lead to P2. So around 6 to 7 tenths every single lap that we've gained on average, and that kind of shows you just how much more of an easy situation is to pick up solid points. Now, I've mentioned this, it would be much easier to pick up solid points. Now, I'm not saying this situation would happen every race where you'd have an easy win, but what I'm saying is it's in general going to be a lot easier to pick up consistent points as we go over the line with quite a fast finishing time, actually. 16:48 I think it was, or 18:48, something like that. We actually matched Favaris's time when we did our first race of the day in the top split. Favaris matched that exact time, and I think in this lobby, so for this time slot, the top split race, because I wasn't in it, but someone told me that the winning time was 46.5, so we were only 1.5 seconds or just under 2 seconds off the top winning time in this slot race in the top split. So it shows you I had the pace to pick up obviously good points, and it was frustrating that we weren't in there. However, because it's so much easier to put yourself in that situation to pick up 2.3Ks in these drop lobbies like split 2, split 3, that's why a lot of people are doing it. So hopefully Polyphony can bear this in mind and just see the evidence is there. The evidence is there in that video how much easier it is to get points. TGT's mentioned it. If he was in split 2 and 3, he'd have a much easier job picking up 2.5k points, 2.4k points, and it is a fact. Especially, I think it's more so of a fact in manufacturer. I think manufacturer is where you would get massive gains, because the OP car wouldn't be as OP with slightly lower quality drivers. So then you can maybe out-qualify that car and hold him off and still pick up a top 3 in a weaker car. And actually use your driver skill to get them points, where you can pick up 2.6 points sometimes in split 2, 2.7 points. I think sometimes split 2 lobbies have been up to 2.7k. So it does show you the benefits of dropping your drive ratings sometimes. But like I say, for myself, I prefer being in that top split lobby, so I always try and get my drive rating back up if we ever lose any, which I'm going to have to do again because we've dropped down to 69k now. So I need to maybe boost that back up to 71 before the next FIA, which won't be for myself, and it'll be another few weeks before we're racing FIA again, because I think there's a gap now of maybe 10 like 10 days, 2 weeks, something like that. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that video, just to prove and kind of show the situation in the game with the points, and to get my viewpoint across on this. I know a lot of people have been talking about in videos mixing it in with tyre, but I wanted to do a video just talking just about the point situation. So hope it's enlightened you on the situation and showed you what we're talking about, like myself and TGT, when we say about having a much easier race in lower splits. Hopefully this video will show that. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section if you agree, if you disagree. Obviously it's your personal opinion, and also if you give the video a thumbs up, I massively appreciate it. We'll be back with more live streams and videos over the next few weeks. I look forward to seeing you all there. Thanks again, everyone.